This guy, Hyun Seung, is a marketing employee at a well-known company. He has a crush on his senior colleague, Song A, because she's always helping him with his work. One day, there's a surprise engagement announcement at the company. A couple, both employees, are getting married, shocking everyone as they had kept their relationship completely under wraps. While out doing market research, Hyun Seung asks Song A what she thinks about office romances. She replies that while getting caught could be troublesome, it's worth a shot for the sake of love. Her words ignite a small spark of hope in Hyun Seung's heart. Later, while mistaken for spies from a rival company, Hyun Seung has an idea. He introduces Song A as his girlfriend and buys her lipstick as a gift. Outside, Song A scolds him, telling him not to do that again as it could lead to misunderstandings. She tries to return the lipstick, suggesting he exchange it for a refund, but he refuses, insisting it's a gift. That night, Seung is in high spirits, reminiscing about the first time he met Song A. He was a student attending an orientation program, and she happened to be the guide. He was captivated by her beauty and couldn't take his eyes off her. The next day, he has lunch with his two older sisters. One is married, the other owns a popular wedding dress shop. His older sister expresses concern about him and his other unmarried sister still being single. Back at work, Seung notices Song A isn't wearing the lipstick he gave her. Later, when their manager, Yi Shin, goes into a meeting, Song A applies the lipstick and leaves. Hyun Seung is thrilled. Hyun Seung's birthday is approaching. His friend wants to throw him a party, but Seung declines. Instead, he seeks out Song A and asks if she's free to join him for his birthday. She agrees, on the condition that everyone else comes along too. So, for his birthday, Hyun Seung invites his colleagues to a celebration. During the party, Hyun Seung keeps glancing at Song A and notices she's waiting for a phone call. She excuses herself to go to the restroom and slips out. Hyun Seung follows her and witnesses something he shouldn't have. Song A and Yi Shin, their manager, are secretly dating. Hyun Seung is heartbroken that the woman he loves is already taken. He tosses and turns all night, unable to sleep. The next day at work, Song A greets him, but he responds curtly. As they're about to enter the elevator, they see Yi Shin inside. Hyun Seung tells them to go ahead, claiming he has something to do. Later, at the office, when Yi Shin announces he's going to a meeting, Song A fixes her hair and leaves, just like she did before. This confirms Hyun Seung's suspicion that they're secretly seeing each other. On Sunday morning, Song A is practicing dance with her best friend. During their conversation, Song A reveals that she's considering marrying Yi Shin, as they've been dating for 2 years. At his eldest sister's place, Hyun Seung decides to give up on pursuing Song A, seeing her happy with Yi Shin. However, as he's leaving, he sees Yi Shin and an unfamiliar woman entering his sister's wedding dress shop. Upon hearing his sister say they're getting married, Hyun Seung retracts his earlier decision, unable to let Song A go. The next day, as Hyun Seung and Song A are about to enter the elevator, the doors open to reveal Yi Shin. This time, Hyun Seung doesn't back down. He stands between them, glaring at Yi Shin. Yi Shin, confused, glares back. During a team meeting, while everyone is giving reports, Hyun Seung continues to glare at Yi Shin. Song A repeatedly nudges him, but he doesn't stop until she kicks him. Unaware of the reason for Hyun Seung's hostility, Song A cautions him. Hyun Seung, hesitant to interfere too soon, tells her he'll hold back for a while and see what happens. If things get out of hand, he won't stay silent any longer, and he walks away. A month passed, with 2 months remaining until Yi Shin's wedding. When Yi Shin announced he was going to a meeting and Song A headed upstairs, he apologized for having to cancel their plans for that evening. Yi Shin explained he had a crucial meeting with a director. Song A didn't think much of it, assuming it was work-related and couldn't be helped. As soon as Yi Shin left, Hyun Seung appeared. He told her he knew everything and asked if she was free that evening. Annoyed by his presumptuous attitude, Song A refused and turned to leave. Hyun Seung pursued her, insisting she had to come, regardless of her schedule. He then lightly brushed his hand across her lips. Yi Shin and director Jeon were close friends. When Yi Shin presented his project and it was rejected by the other managers, Yi Woon intervened, stating that the chairman had already approved it and everyone needed to respect the decision. Meanwhile, Song A, still fuming about Hyun Seung's touch, received a call from him. She firmly told him she wasn't going and hung up. However, Hyun Seung texted her, warning that she would regret it if she didn't come. Curious to know what was going on, Song A finally agreed to meet him. Hyun Seung told her he didn't want her to be bullied. Song A was confused, questioning his right to interfere, even if she were being bullied. At that moment, Hyun Seung confessed his feelings for her. After being stuck in traffic, they finally arrived at the wedding dress shop. Hyun Seung's eldest sister led them to a room overlooking the main area and then left them alone. As Song A prepared to leave, Hyun Seung told her this was her chance to protect herself. Recalling Hyun Seung's previous words, Song A started to piece things together. Just then, Yi Shin and another woman arrived for a wedding dress fitting. Looking out, Song A saw Yi Shin with the other woman. Unable to accept what she was seeing, she started to confront them, but Hyun Seung stopped her. He asked, "Don't you believe it even now?" After waiting for a while, Song A could no longer contain herself. Tears welling up, she wanted to rush out and confront them. Hyun Seung held her back. Rushing out now would be reckless. Let's think this through. When Yi Shin and the woman left, Song A apologized to her sister for the disruption. Hyun Seung followed, offering to take her home. Furious, Song A retorted, "Who are you to interfere in my affairs? Stay out of my relationship with him." She told him to get lost and stormed off. Yi Shin drove the woman home. The woman, Hyo-ju, was director Yi Woon's younger sister. He remembered a time when Hyo-ju had attempted suicide by overdosing because he didn't love her. When he rushed to the hospital, she had already been stabilized. Yi Woon had begged him to marry her to prevent it from happening again. To relieve stress, Song A went to an internet cafe to play PUBG. Despite her friend's inquiries, she refused to talk about what had happened. That same day, Hyun Seung's two older sisters were shopping together. When the second sister suggested calling Hyun Seung to join them for dinner, the eldest sister stopped her, lying that he had been out drinking all night and was probably exhausted. After avoiding her sister's suspicions, the eldest sister made plans to have dinner with Hyun Seung the next day. While shopping, the eldest sister ran into Yi Woon, who was observing his employees. He was instantly smitten with her. The eldest sister, Jae Seung, tried to purchase a limited edition lipstick, but it was sold out. Yi Woon approached her, offering to help find it, and presented her with his business card, revealing his position as director. Assuming she would be impressed, he was surprised when Jae Seung brushed him off and left. Yi Woon found her intriguing. Heartbroken, Song A shut herself in her room. She ignored Yi Shin's calls. She stared at the pair of rings on her bed. They were the rings she had bought to celebrate their 2-year anniversary, but now everything was ruined. The next morning, Song A arrived at work to find Yi Shin working as if nothing was wrong. Later, Yi Woon came to the office and invited the whole team to lunch. Song A declined. In the elevator on her way down, Hyun Seung excused himself, claiming he had something to do and would join them later. He returned to the office but didn't find Song A. Just then, she returned with water. Seeing her, Hyun Seung awkwardly lied that he had forgotten his wallet. After the team finished lunch, Yi Shin called Song A into his office. He asked if she was angry with him, but Song A remained silent and suggested they talk that evening at a cafe. After work, the rain poured down, further dampening Song A's spirits. When Yi Shin arrived, Song A went straight to the point. She wanted to make their relationship public to their friends and colleagues. Yi Shin hesitated, saying he needed time to think. This deeply upset Song A. On the bus ride home, she received a call from her mother. She burst into tears, crying out, "Why is everyone treating me like this?" Recalling Hyun Seung's words from earlier, Song A immediately went to his place, waiting for him to return from his run. Tears welling up in her eyes, she asked, "So what do I need to do to get revenge?" Hyun Seung replied, "Date me." Song A seemed to disagree and left immediately. The next day at work, seeing Yi Shin acting as if everything was normal infuriated her. She approached him, handed him a bottle of water, and announced their relationship. She even imagined him caught two-timing, and her throwing water in his face. But it was just a fantasy. At that moment, director Yi Woon came looking for Yi Shin. She called him over and revealed that the man engaged to his sister had been dating her for 2 years. In her imagination, Yi Woon flew into a rage and punched Yi Shin. But this, too, was just a fantasy. Team leader Ju then asked Hyun Seung and Song-a to go on a business trip together. When Hyun Seung offered to help her with her luggage, Song-a coldly refused and handled it herself. Ever since he developed a crush on Jae Seung, Yi Woon had been frequenting her company's cosmetic counter, hoping to see her. But she only returned when there were new lipstick samples, so he still hadn't been able to meet her. On the business trip, team leader Ju was delighted, treating it like a vacation. Upon arrival, before Song-a could say she would handle her own luggage, Hyun Seung told her to carry it herself. After Seung's new product presentation, the three of them had dinner with team leader Ju's close friend. The team leader and his friend continuously praised Hyun Seung's performance, even mentioning that Song-a kept looking at him during the presentation. After dinner, Song-a excused herself and went off alone. She remembered 2 years prior, when she had accidentally witnessed an argument between Yi Shin and Yi Woon. The next day at the office, she saw Yi Shin in the elevator and walked away. During lunch, he kept staring at her. After work, Yi Shin met Song-a in the elevator. He said he knew she was the one who had witnessed the argument. He said, "I really am like Yi Woon's lapdog, so don't feel uncomfortable. You can tell your colleagues and laugh about it together." Song-a chased after him, saying she wasn't the type to gossip about other people's affairs. Yi Shin looked at her with a completely different expression and invited her to dinner. Back in the present, Hyun Seung found her. He asked, "Are you waiting for Yi Shin to hesitate so he might come back to you?" Song-a snapped, "You two are just strangers who were once close. Even if I become a fool, it has nothing to do with you." Hyun Seung said he had been in her shoes, dumped by another girl. Despite his efforts and pleas, the outcome remained unchanged. Yi Shin looked back at the notes Song-a had written, always asking after his well-being, but Yi Shin crumpled them all up. When team leader Ju returned to the hotel, he couldn't find anyone. Looking down from the balcony, he saw the two talking and assumed they were secretly dating. Because her sister was sick, Jae Seung took her niece, Ha Yoon, to the tennis court. Ryeon was warming up when he saw the woman he had a crush on. He was lifting his shirt to show off his muscles, but was startled to see the little girl with her. This led him to mistakenly believe she was her daughter. While Jae Seung was in the restroom, Yi Woon rushed over to ask Ha Yoon, "Is that lady your mother?" Just as Jae Seung came out, Ha Yoon ran to her, hugged her, and called out, "Mom." After their 2-day business trip, the group returned. As Hyun Seung dropped Song-a off, Team A's marketing department called, requesting Song-a to ship 500 bottles of makeup remover. Yi Shin also texted, telling her to enjoy her time off and asking if she was free the following evening. She didn't reply. Yi Shin was now having drinks with Yi Woon. After learning that the woman he loved at first sight was already taken, Yi Woon was heartbroken. The next day at the office, seeing that Song-a hadn't replied, Yi Shin said he was going upstairs for a meeting. This time, she didn't accompany him, leaving him hanging. Team leader Ae approached her about the makeup remover, and she suddenly remembered she'd forgotten about it. Just as she was about to apologize, the team leader praised her work, saying the client was very pleased. Suspicious, Song-a inquired with the shipping department and learned that Hyun Seung had taken care of it for her. She called Hyun Seung aside to ask about it. As he started to apologize for interfering again, Song-a thanked him. She reminded him that it was once his responsibility too. She used to help him whenever he made mistakes at work. When she got home, there was a message from Yi Shin asking to see her that evening, but she didn't reply. Instead, she waited for Hyun Seung to finish work. She apologized for her harsh words previously and invited him to dinner. The two were now able to talk comfortably as they had before. After dropping Song-a home, Hyun Seung said, "If what you want is for me not to interfere anymore, then I will. But I will still protect you." As he left, she seemed to gain courage and called Yi Shin, telling him it was over. She told him to figure out the reason himself and hung up. But as she was about to enter her apartment, Yi Shin got out of a car parked nearby. He approached her, demanding to know why she was breaking up with him. "Did that Hyun Seung guy flirt with you, and now you two are dating?" Yi Shin grabbed her arm, demanding an explanation. Song struggled to break free, but he wouldn't let go. Fortunately, Hyun Seung returned and pushed Yi Shin away. Yi Shin told Hyun Seung to get out of the way, calling it a superior's order. However, Hyun Seung remained firm, standing protectively in front of Song A. She grasped Hyun Seung's hand. Holding a girl's hand gave him at least 1,000 units of power. Hyun Seung called Yi Shin a bastard and told him to get away from his girl. Song A led Hyun Seung into her building. He waited until Yi Shin left before departing himself. The following day, he received a message from Song A asking him to meet her at a cafe. Seeing her tension, Hyun Seung teased her to lighten the mood, then said, "If anything happens, I will protect you. And likewise, if I get bullied by Yi Shin, you have to do the same." At the team meeting, Yi Shin, wanting to make things difficult for Hyun Seung, bombarded him with tricky questions and criticized him in front of everyone. Hyun Seung could only apologize. Song A watched Yi Shin with a furious glare. After everyone left, she told Yi Shin, "Keep your personal and professional life separate. Don't let outside matters affect the company." Near the end of the workday, Yi Shin texted, asking to meet. Song A ignored him and instead asked Hyun Seung if he was free to have dinner and look at some cosmetics with her. While eating noodles, Hyun Seung asked, "Are you doing this on purpose?" But he didn't care if Song A was deliberately using him as a shield. He was just happy to be with her. Such is the life of an older boyfriend. After dinner, they returned to the office to try out the new cosmetics. Unfortunately, Hyun Seung got some in his eye, and it stung. Song A told him to turn so she could wipe it off, but he suddenly moved closer, causing her heart to flutter unconsciously. Yi Shin, meanwhile, was feeling frustrated and was out drinking with Yi Woon. A wealthy, arrogant man approached them, provoking Yi Shin, calling him Yi Woon's lapdog. Yi Shin tried to ignore him and leave, but the man pulled him back, insulting him further. Yi Shin lost his composure, grabbed the man by the throat, and threatened to expose his gambling addiction before letting him go. The man was terrified and didn't dare say another word. Yi Woon was pleased to see Yi Shin's true self emerge after so long. Back when they were in high school, Yi Shin's father had scammed people and run away, leading them to come to the school and beat Yi Shin up. At the time, Yi Shin hadn't shown any fear, stating, "I didn't get a single penny of that money." He then calmly returned to his desk, piquing the interest of young Master Yi Woon. During break time, Yi Shin asked Yi Woon to meet him on the rooftop and said, "Buy me, and use that money to pay back the debts of my swindler father." Yi Shin vowed to be his loyal dog for life. But Yi Woon didn't want that. He wanted to be his friend. Yi Woon, lovesick to the point of delusion, mistook a stranger for Jae Seung. At the office, Hyun Seung and Yi Shin ran into each other. Yi Shin declared his intention to reconcile with Song A. Hyun Seung advised him, if he had any self-respect and genuine feelings for her, to end things there. When Song An arrived at the office and saw them emerging from the same room, she worriedly asked Hyun Seung if they had been fighting. He playfully pretended that Yi Shin had physically assaulted him in the private room. Song A, believing him, was concerned. When Hyun Seung suggested she take him along wherever she went from now on, she realized he was joking. Just then, team leader Ju walked by, pretending not to notice their playful banter. That evening, the group went out for Korean BBQ. Out of the blue, team leader AE asked Hyun Seung if he had a girlfriend and offered to set him up on a blind date. Team leader Ju, worried about Seung and Song A's budding romance, snatched the phone, warning against discussing such matters at work. Seung, to deflect the attention, claimed he was pining after someone, but everyone pressed him for details. Cornered, he lied and said it was team leader Ju, causing her to spit out her drink in surprise, while everyone else was equally shocked. The next day, Hyun Seung and Song A planned to visit a restaurant for inspection. Just then, Yi Shin messaged a coworker claiming Director Jeon had ordered an inventory check. Song A had to go alone while Hyun Seung stayed to do inventory, working diligently until late. When Yi Woon went looking for Yi Shin, the coworker inquired about the inventory order, but Yi Woon had no recollection of issuing such a directive. Seeing Yi Shin was also absent, Seung realized what had happened. After Song A finished inspecting the restaurant, Yi Shin arrived. He wanted to talk. Song told him she had chosen someone else and wanted to end things between them. Yi Shin retorted, "Get married then. Is that what you were thinking when you wanted to go public?" This infuriated Song A, realizing he planned to break off his engagement with Hyo-ju to return to her. She slapped him and walked away. Yi Shin tried to stop her, but she was determined to leave. Hyun-seung appeared, but Yi Shin, indifferent, shoved him to the ground. Enraged, Seung punched him, and a fight ensued. Song cried, begging them to stop. The scene became chaotic. In the car, Hyun-seung bought Song a drink and told her to forget about it, assuring her he would too. Seeing Hyun-seung injured because of her, she burst into tears. Time passed uneventfully until Yi Shin and Hyo-ju's wedding photoshoot. Song stayed home, locked in her room, heartbroken. Her best friend, finding Song A's keepsake couple rings discarded, picked out a nice outfit for her and coaxed her to go out. A worried Seung called to check on her and learned she was okay and out with her friend. Her friend took Song to a bar to unwind. Seung, spotting them, went inside. Song A, seemingly shedding her burden, danced with abandon. Seung, watching from behind, enjoyed her carefree spirit. When a guy tried to hit on her, he stepped in, positioning himself protectively behind her. Song turned and saw him watching her. They shared a lingering gaze before shyly escaping outside. After exchanging greetings, Song urged him to go home and rest. Just then, her friend, Yi Woong, emerged and invited Hyun-seung to join them. The two, acting like old friends, drank enthusiastically together. As they were about to go for another round, noticing Song A's discomfort, Seung suggested they continue another time. The next day at work, he spotted Song from afar and ran over to tease her. Seung remarked, "You were a great dancer last night," and mimicked her moves, making her blush and hurry away. Arriving at the office, they were cheerfully chatting when Yi Shin and the director stepped into the elevator with them. The atmosphere instantly became tense and awkward. Yi Woon invited Song and Yi Shin to dinner to discuss business. Meanwhile, Jae Seung arrived at the cosmetics company. The receptionist, upon seeing her, remembered how the director used to bring gifts and bribes daily, hoping to win her over. She was instructed to inform him if Jae Seung ever showed up. During lunch, Hyun-seung ate with team leader AE. They were curious about the girl he was pining for. Just then, his juniors arrived for lunch. Seeing Seung, they greeted him, further fueling the misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Song was having lunch with the director, who informed her about the company's upcoming expansion into the European market. They were forming a project team with talented individuals, including Song A. Mid-conversation, the director received a text from the receptionist informing him of Jae Seung's arrival. He immediately excused himself and rushed off, leaving Song and Yi Shin alone. Song told Yi Shin to inform the director that she would decline the opportunity and then left. As Jae Seung left, Yi Woon was waiting, feigning a chance encounter. Through their conversation, he learned she was divorced, never having actually been married. He was secretly thrilled, believing he still had a chance. Hyun-seung and Song took time off to visit the cosmetics store and check out the newly released products. Back at the office for a meeting, Yi Shin, wanting to separate them, assigned team leader Kang as Hyun-seung's mentor, leaving Song to work independently. Though annoyed, they couldn't do anything about it. Jae Seung, fulfilling Hyun-seung's wish to sabotage Hyo-ju's wedding dress, reported an internal issue. Hyo-ju was furious, as her wedding was less than a month away. She had her assistant search for a new dress and then went to Yi Shin's house. There, she told him about the dress fiasco and joked about looking for a swimsuit instead. Seeing him still teary-eyed, she felt like she was marrying herself. She declared that while she loved him more, it didn't mean she was weak. At work, hearing Hyun-seung's voice, Song assumed he was talking to her as usual and responded. However, he was actually speaking to team leader Kang. The team leader brought him to the Consumer Research Interview office to introduce him. Afterward, a middle-aged man gave him errands, leading him to a different branch filled with middle-aged women. Upon seeing the handsome Hyun-seung, they swarmed him. Without Seung, Song went alone to retrieve a pile of products. Yi Shin offered to help, but she brushed him off. Their interaction was recorded and witnessed by others. The next day, Hyun-seung had to attend a party with his new office. The attendees were all middle-aged men and women with impressive drinking tolerances, and they plied him with beer. A worried Song-a texted him, "Is the party not over yet?" But Hyun-seung, already on his way to a second round, was oblivious. He became completely drunk, reminiscing about the previous day. Yi Shin met with him and urged him to persuade Song-a to take the European opportunity. He believed it was a great chance for her career growth, given her abilities. Song-a, on her way home, saw a group returning from a drinking session, including Seung. Seeing his goofy drunken state, she laughed. Spotting Song-a, he told his senior to move aside and stumbled towards her, then unexpectedly rested his head on her shoulder. In the taxi, Seung's continuous antics left Song-a exasperated. She took him home and was about to leave when he childishly pleaded with her to stay. He then offered her orange juice and other refreshments. Remembering his actions, he was mortified. At work, he apologized to Song-a for the previous night. He asked why she was where he was drinking. She lied, saying she was just passing by. With a new project underway, Song-a's workload increased, and she worked overtime constantly. When Hansel invited Hyun-seung to dinner, he remembered Song-a hadn't eaten and brought food up to eat with her, leaving his single friend alone. Meanwhile, Yi Shin was at the police station bailing his father out after a drunken brawl. Outside, his father demanded money and threatened to cause a scene at Yi Shin's company if he didn't pay. After seeing his father off, Song-a, on her way to get water, encountered Yi Shin. He confessed everything, revealing that Yi Woon had asked him to marry Hyo-ju to prevent her from doing anything rash. Though he couldn't abandon the marriage, Yi Shin encouraged Song-a to seize the European opportunity, emphasizing its potential for her career. As the team prepared for a press conference, team leader Ju rushed in, announcing they couldn't reach the model for makeup. With the conference imminent and no model, everyone panicked. When Seung arrived, a co-worker, looking at his features and physique, suggested they didn't need to look far for a replacement. While Song-a applied foundation to him, Seung asked, "Are you going to Europe?" This surprised her, as she hadn't told anyone. Seung assured her that whatever she chose, he would support her. The press conference went smoothly. Hyo-ju, as a VIP guest, attended. As she was about to enter, Song-a emerged. Upon seeing her, Hyo-ju recognized Song-a as the woman talking to Yi Shin the other day. Now, knowing Song-a worked in the same office as Yi Shin, she became wary of her. The next day, Song-a returned to her hometown for her father's death anniversary. Upon entering the house, she found it in disarray and began cleaning. In the process, she discovered letters exchanged between her mother and father. When her mother returned, Song-a suggested they burn the letters along with her father's photos. Later, during dinner, Song-a urged her mother to move her father's memorial tablet to a temple and find someone new for her own happiness. This led to an argument. Song-a resented her father for his infidelity, while her mother still clung to memories of him. At the company, Hyun-seung had invited Jeon, his oldest sister, for a visit. Just as Yi Woon was about to leave, he saw her. He approached her, greeted her, and suggested they have lunch together, but his assistant informed him of an important upcoming appointment. Seeing his pleading look, the assistant intervened, claiming Jeon already had plans. While having lunch with Hyun-seung, Jeon inquired about the difficulty of relaunching the limited edition lipstick line. She compared it to reviving a bankrupt company. Suddenly, Yi Woon received an important notification. Left with no choice, he called Song-a to join him at the company's cosmetics counter to greet the chairman, who was visiting. While they were examining new products, a commotion erupted nearby. Yi Shin rushed over to discover two schoolgirls had been caught shoplifting by an employee. The chairman approached and questioned them, but both girls denied the accusations. Noticing something amiss about one of the girls' demeanor, the chairman had an employee bring out a stack of cosmetics and made a deal. "If you tell me the truth, you can have all of these." The girl hesitated. Seeing her friend about to confess, the girl who had stolen the lipstick quickly returned it and stormed off angrily. The chairman's intention was to impart a lesson: choose your friends wisely. Back in the office, a major problem arose. A careless colleague had printed the wrong labels, resulting in faulty products. One solution was to stick new labels over the old ones, but no one wanted to undertake such a tedious task. Finally, Hyun-seung volunteered. Despite the assistance of 2 freelancers, the sheer volume was overwhelming. When their time was up and a mountain of products remained, Song checked on the situation and asked Hyun Seung about his progress. He claimed he only needed another hour. Song remarked, "You would do this well even without me." Suddenly, Song announced she wouldn't be going to Europe, so he needn't worry about her leaving. Upon hearing this news, Hyun Seung stopped turning off the machine and jumped for joy. Song, watching from outside, smiled. He looked out and, seeing a shadowy figure, was startled, thinking it was a ghost. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was Song, who had come to help. Looking at the mountain of products needing new labels, she knew he had lied to spare her the trouble. Since she was already there, she started helping him apply the labels. They worked until midnight. Overcome by exhaustion, Song dozed off against Hyun Seung's shoulder. He was about to stroke her hair when she suddenly woke up. She claimed to be fully awake and ready to continue, but Hyun Seung stopped her, urging her to rest. He ran out to his car, despite the rain, to retrieve towels for her. He gave her one to cover herself and another to use as a pillow. Feeling a surge of warmth, she asked him to sit down so she could dry his hair with the towel. She asked, "Serum, why do you like me?" Initially, he just wanted to see her again, outside of the company. But then, without realizing it, his feelings developed into love. Song confessed that after her past relationship, she no longer trusted any man. His feelings for her were too intense for her to accept. When Yi Shin opened his front door, he found Hyo-ju throwing away his belongings. She explained she was helping him declutter since they would soon be living together. As she continued discarding items, Yi Shin rushed to stop her, saying, "I'll do it myself." Seeing he had been drinking, she relented. Before leaving, she kissed him goodbye. Unexpectedly, Yi Shin pulled her back and kissed her passionately. They shared a fervent kiss. After a tiring night of labeling, Hyun Seung and Song finally finished. The events of the previous night made conversation a little awkward. While the team leader called Hyun Seung away for another task, Yeon Seung celebrated Ha-yoon's birthday at kindergarten. As the mothers chatted, one asked Yeon Seung to request her husband's friend, Han Seo, to teach them how to cook like him. Yeon Seung felt a little embarrassed. She met with Han Seo and explained the situation. Knowing she would also participate, he agreed. First, he would attend a cooking class to observe the teaching methods. The condition was that Yeon Seung accompany him. At the company meeting, Yi Shin commended Seung for his excellent work with the recent label crisis. An upcoming competition for new product innovation was announced. According to team rules, Hyun Seung, the least experienced member, would participate. In previous years, Song had consistently participated and won first place. He, along with Si-rim and Min Sung, would collaborate on developing a new product. Suddenly, news of Yi Shin and Hyo-ju's impending marriage hit the headlines. The entire company was taken by surprise, but the news was quickly retracted. Yi Shin told Yi Woon, "Since it's a shotgun wedding anyway, we'll probably have to announce it officially soon." Back in the office, everyone crowded around Yi Shin to offer congratulations, while Song sat alone, heartbroken. Seung, worried about her, checked on her, but she pretended to be unaware of the news and continued working. That evening, when Hyo-ju arrived home, she found Yi Woon wearing a face mask. He explained his beauty regimen was in preparation for Yi Shin's wedding announcement, which delighted her. The next day was the relaunch of the limited edition lipstick, so Yi Woon went to the sales counter to wait for Jae Seung. He even meticulously styled his hair. A business partner arrived, recognized him, and suggested they have dinner together. Meanwhile, Jae Seung arrived to purchase the lipstick only to be informed it was sold out. As she was about to leave, Yi Woon appeared and gifted her the last lipstick. Jae Seung promised to have dinner with him when she had free time. Seeing Song A's continued sadness, Ga Young took her out shopping. They bumped into Hyun Seung conducting market research. Noticing their awkward and hesitant interaction, Yi Woon intervened and took them out for Korean BBQ. Later, Song excused herself to use the restroom, leaving Hyun Seung and Yi Woon alone. Upon leaving the restaurant, they spotted team leader Kang up ahead. Fearing discovery, Song immediately grabbed Hyun Seung's hand and ran. They laughed and joked as they ran. After a while, as he walked Song-a home, she apologized for what she had said earlier and asked him not to look so sad anymore. The next morning, following Hyun-seung's advice, Song-a dragged Ga-young out for a jog. Meanwhile, as Yi-shin and Hyo-ju were choosing decorations for their new home, he received a call from an unsaved number. Yi-shin lied and said it was an unknown caller so he wouldn't answer. The caller was his father, demanding money. That evening, he went to his father's dilapidated apartment and asked how much money he wanted to sever ties. His father demanded 300 million won, a staggering sum. Despite not having it, Yi-shin immediately transferred the money and left. That same day, Hyo-ju visited her brother at the company. On her way out, she happened to enter the same elevator as Hyun-seung. He recognized her as Yi-shin's fiancée. When the elevator doors opened, Song-a and Yi-shin were standing close by. The two women stared at each other. Seung, wanting to protect Song-a, reached out and took her hand, making it clear to Hyo-ju that Song-a was taken and not interested in Yi-shin. He pulled her outside, only to find team leader Kang standing there. Afterward, Hyun-seung bought coffee for team leader Kang, confusing both her and Song-a. When team leader Kang struggled with packing some shipments, Hyun-seung stepped in to help. Song-a, now curious, called Hyun-seung aside to question him. She wanted to know what was going on between him and team leader Kang that warranted such attentiveness. Hyun-seung feigned indebtedness to her as the reason for his help. Yi-woon took Jae-seung out to dinner. Although he had already eaten, he lied and said he hadn't so he could dine with her. After dinner, they took a walk. Yi-woon revealed he was 35 years old, 2 years older than Jae-seung, which made her slightly embarrassed and she walked ahead. When she turned back, she saw him cowering in fear as a dog approached him. Immediately, she took his hand and returned the dog to its owner. Yi-woon, delighted to be holding her hand, remarked on the abundance of dogs in the area and asked for her continued protection. They smiled shyly and continued their walk, hand in hand. Meanwhile, Song-a's mother was deeply worried. That morning, she had a medical examination and discovered an ovarian mass. She suspected it might be cancerous. She wanted to call her daughter but lacked the courage to tell her. The next day, Hyun-seung and Song-a went to the university for a recruitment event. As they were about to explore the campus, they bumped into Hyun-seung's ex-girlfriend. She wanted to talk, but he declined, saying he had an appointment, and left. That evening, he took Song-a to a gathering with his juniors. She was initially hesitant, but the lively and cheerful atmosphere soon helped her relax and enjoy herself. Hyun-seung, being a terrible player, lost the games and had to drink a lot. They stepped outside to look at the stars. While they were talking, Hyun-seung dozed off, his head resting on Song-a's shoulder. When Hyo-ju arrived at the office, she found a strange man there. After speaking with him, she learned he was Yi-shin's father. Having read the news, he came to demand money, asking for 200 million won to allow the wedding to proceed. Hyo-ju laughed heartily and asked, "Do I look like someone who's easily bullied?" causing his hand to tremble nervously. Yeon-seung and Han-seo attended a cooking class, but both felt the food wasn't as good as Han-seo's. Seeing their closeness, other girls mistook them for a couple. Han-seo denied it, clarifying they were just close friends. After work, as Hyun-seung and Song-a were leaving together, his ex-girlfriend appeared again. Hyun-seung tried to ignore her, but she threatened to return if he did. Left with no choice, he spoke to her. She shamelessly wanted to get back together, but after everything that had happened, Seung firmly refused, stating that he already had someone he liked. At home, Song-a kept thinking about Hyun-seung's earlier words. Worried about him, she called to check on him. They went to eat ramen together. Hyun-seung then said, just like she had previously suggested, he needed to change. "From now on, I'll try. I won't like you anymore." From that day on, Seung avoided her. Song-a wanted to congratulate him on receiving an award but could only watch from afar. That evening, the team went out for drinks to celebrate Hyun-seung's achievement. After a while, the assistant team leader was completely drunk. Song-a went outside and didn't return for a while, so the remaining three created an opportunity for Hyun-seung to check on her. They were also troubled by the ambiguous relationship between the two. As Song-a was about to leave, a car suddenly sped by. Hyun-seung instinctively shielded her, getting splashed with water. Song stammered a thank you and left. The next day at the university, they met again. This time, Song approached him first. She said she hated the awkwardness and how things weren't as fun as before. I don't want you to leave, don't go away from me. That evening, at home, he happily recalled the afternoon's events. At the company, everyone was excited about the opportunity to work at the European branch. Everyone was curious about who would succeed Yi Xin. At that moment, manager Xiao arrived. Looking at Yi Xin's position, he felt very satisfied. Yi Wun and Yi Xin were discussing the new branch with the chairman when Hyoju entered. She brought flowers to congratulate Yi Xin on his promotion to director and invited him to dinner at the chairman's house. As Jian was about to pour him a drink, Yi Xin spoke up, "I want to toast the chairman." Pleased with his respectful attitude, the chairman expressed his satisfaction. He said that from now on, any matters related to the European branch should be reported directly to him, bypassing Yi Wun. The chairman wanted to give Yi Xin a chance to redeem himself for past mistakes. A few days later, the new product development competition began. Min Sung and Si Rim's presentation on their new product was well received. Kane's presentation, however, stood out even more. He introduced a product designed to prevent dark circles under the eyes, complete with engaging illustrations that captivated the audience. Back at the office, someone was pacing anxiously. As soon as Hyun Seung returned, they rushed over to him, eager for news. Hyun Seung put on a serious face, leading everyone to believe he hadn't won. Then he declared, "Wouldn't winning first place 3 years in a row be a bit much?" Han Seo and Wood had started their training course for housewives. The two found it easy to chat and joke with each other. That evening, Seung celebrated with Song and 2 friends. Hyun Seung had indeed won first place in the product competition, while Zin took second. Hanel, however, didn't win any prize, leading him to grumble indignantly, "They've got no taste." When they got home, Hyun Seung playfully asked Song for praise and a head rub. As Song placed her hand on his forehead, she was alarmed to find it burning hot. She took him home, told him to lie down, and went out to buy medicine. Upon returning, she rang the doorbell, but no one answered. Remembering that he had told her the passcode was his birthday, she let herself in. Hyun Seung was fast asleep, completely oblivious. Meanwhile, as Jai Seung was working on a wedding dress, Yi Wun texted her to come outside. He was waiting at her door with dinner and a bouquet of flowers. As he was about to leave, Jai Seung invited him in. She was nervous about her upcoming wedding dress display at the mall. Yi Wun reassured her, saying she needn't worry. If she would just give him the title of boyfriend, he would take care of everything. With that, he moved closer to Jai Seung. Expecting her to be shy, he was surprised when she boldly leaned in and kissed him. In the middle of the night, Hyun Seung's fever broke. Waking up, he was touched to see Song A had been looking after him all night. As he was covering her with a blanket, she stirred and woke up. After confirming that his fever was gone, she quietly left. The next day, Yi Xin was about to leave to meet the chairman when he was surprised to find his father causing a scene at the company. His father declared he had been paid off, and they no longer had any relationship. Then, abruptly, he announced that he had found Yi Xin's mother. The two spoke privately. Yi Xin reminded his father that he had accepted money to sever ties, and that his mother had abandoned him as a child. While Song-a was at work, her mother called. She announced she had visited Hyun Seung and was now waiting at Song-a's apartment for dinner. Song-a angrily hung up, frustrated that her mother never told her anything beforehand. Yi Xin's father was drinking in his small apartment when 2 police officers knocked on his door. Panicked, he grabbed a bag and bolted. That evening at Song-a's apartment, dinner with her mother escalated into an argument. Her mother questioned whether she had a boyfriend and was planning to abandon her, demanding she break up with him. Exasperated, Song-a started to leave. It was only then that her mother revealed she had cancer and didn't have much time left. After calling the doctor, Song-a learned that the tumor had a very low chance of developing into cancer. Her mother needed to go for a checkup the next day, but refused surgery, leading to another argument. In her frustration, Song-a blurted out, "Why are you always bringing up Dad, the man who abandoned you?" She stormed out, remembering the time she had seen her father with another woman and the deep resentment she had felt. Her mother had arrived that same day to bring her husband lunch and had witnessed the same scene. When Song-a had run to prevent her mother from seeing, her mother had pretended not to see her husband and simply gone home with Song-a. Distraught, Song-a ran to Hyun-seung's house. When he came out and saw her upset, he pulled her into a hug. Once she calmed down, Song-a confessed her feelings for him. They both laughed, embracing each other. They were officially a couple. Yi-shin was out drinking with Yi-woon when he received a call from the hospital. He rushed over to find his father on oxygen support. His father had been involved in a fraud scheme and the police had come looking for him. While fleeing with the money, he had been in a traffic accident. Suddenly, his father's heart stopped. Doctors repeatedly used the defibrillator, but to no avail. As Hyun-seung walked Song-a home, she told him about her mother's illness and how she couldn't live without her. Hyun-seung comforted her. "Everything will be all right. Don't worry." Just then, they received messages from work informing them of Yi-shin's father's passing. At the funeral, Hyun-seung offered to change into mourning clothes, but Yi-shin stopped him. When Hyun-seung and Song arrived at the funeral hall, he suggested Song go in first. Upon entering, she saw Yi-shin looking utterly defeated. He was filled with regret, as the last thing he had said to his father was to tell him to disappear. The next day at work, Hyun-seung was called in for a meeting with manager Seo. Impressed by Hyun-seung's presentation, he wanted to build a better relationship. Because of the size of the tumor, Song-a's mother had to undergo surgery to determine if it was cancerous. Though terrified, she agreed to the procedure under pressure from Song-a. Song-a didn't go to work that day, leaving Hyun-seung missing her and waiting for her call. As soon as she texted, he immediately called back to check on her. That same day, Han-seo, having a separate date with her husband, asked Yi-woon to watch Hyun. He arrived just as they were leaving. During their conversation, he learned that, contrary to his previous assumption, she wasn't a single mother. Hyun was shocked to discover that this old-faced uncle was actually 2 years younger than Jae-seung. Initially, she didn't approve of this uncle. However, seeing how much they loved each other, Hyun eventually accepted him. Knowing her parents hadn't had time to eat, Song-a was about to grab some kimbap when Hyun-seung appeared, stopping her and buying her sushi instead. While having dinner with her husband, Yeon-seung recounted their first blind date. She initially thought the date was a disaster because he remained silent, looking down. After a while, she realized he had been listening intently to her. Then, through some miracle, they ended up together. As they were leaving, Yeon-seung told her husband, "When you have time, let's invite Gaon out to dinner to thank him." When she mentioned that she and Han-seo had become friends, her husband seemed surprised and somewhat displeased. Hyun-seung brought fruit to visit Song-a's mother. While they were joking and laughing together, her mother walked in on them. To avoid being discovered, they resorted to blatant lies. Hyun-seung claimed he was visiting on behalf of the entire office, narrowly avoiding exposure. As he was about to leave, he received a call from manager Seo, who invited him to a bar. He expressed his satisfaction at having 2 capable assistants under his command. The sales manager and the other assistant then began gossiping and bad-mouthing everyone in Hyun-seung's team. Hyun-seung asked, "Has he officially become our team manager?" While there was no official announcement yet, he was the only suitable candidate. Upon hearing this, Hyun-seung stood up, paid for his drinks, and left, infuriating manager Seo. That night, unable to sleep, Song-a and her mother had a heart-to-heart. Song-a said, "Dad is gone now. Do you really have to keep torturing yourself like this?" Her mother explained that she felt she had to walk on eggshells around Song-a to avoid being abandoned. When Song-a confessed, "Seeing you like this makes me so tired," her mother finally stopped and went to bed. While Ro and Yi-shin were at home, the police arrived with his father's belongings. He told her to throw them away. But when Ro suggested he look through them, he snapped at her and told her to leave. At work, Hyun-seung was distracted during the meeting, texting Song-a. After work, everyone left, leaving Hyun-seung alone to work overtime. Si-rim, on her way out, saw him, and they went for drinks. Si-rim guessed that he and Song-a were dating. She advised, "If you don't want anyone at work to know, you should be more discreet." The next day, Song-a's mother's surgery was successful. However, they would have to wait a few days for the results. As soon as she was discharged, she returned to her hometown, despite Song A's pleas to stay. Back home, remembering Song A's words, she tore up the letters and burned the pictures of her unfaithful husband. On their day off, Hyun-seung and Song A went on a camping trip for a change of scenery. They enjoyed themselves, building a fire, setting up a tent, and playing around. That evening, as they sat and talked, Song A confessed that she didn't want to give her all to love, not wanting to end up like her mother. Seung reassured her, saying that was fine, he would make up for the rest of the love. With that, they shared a kiss. Hyun-seung told Song A to sleep in the tent while he slept in the car, pretending that the weather would turn cold and it would be warmer in the car so she could have more space. But Song A saw right through his lie and knew he was giving up the tent for her. She insisted he join her in the tent. Lying side by side, they smiled at each other like fools. Seung confessed that since they met, his life had felt like a dream. Every morning they commuted together, sneaking moments to see each other at work, and every night they exchanged goodnight texts. Song A felt incredibly lucky that no matter what, he was always there for her. Yesun followed the address his father had left him to his mother's restaurant. He didn't go in, just stood outside watching. When a woman walked into the restaurant, he recognized her as his mother. Young had a lunch date with her 2 younger siblings and went to Hyun-seung's company to wait for him. She ran into her ex-fiancé, and they exchanged awkward greetings before parting ways. During lunch, her siblings encouraged her to find a boyfriend so she could finally settle down. When Jae-seung revealed she was dating, they were both surprised and delighted for their picky older sister. Despite their burning curiosity to know the identity of the lucky man, Young refused to tell them. The next day, Hyun-seung and Song A arranged to go to work together. To keep their relationship a secret from their colleagues, Song A came up with a plan to pretend they weren't close at work. Unbeknownst to them, their team leader and manager already knew about their relationship and were happy for them. Just then, the assistant manager approached Hyun-seung, informing him that Manager Seo's team was planning to launch a product identical to Seung's. He had confronted Manager Seo, but due to a previous incident, Seo held a grudge against him. Seo's team had designed completely different packaging, claiming it wouldn't affect Seung's product. Left with no other choice, they went to Director Jian for help. However, Manager Seo argued that selling a similar product would increase the company's overall revenue. Defeated, Yi-woon agreed to allow the competing product to be sold. The team was furious, feeling deeply for Hyun-seung, as this was his first product. Hyo-ju, unable to reach Yi-shin, drank heavily alone, knowing it was the only way to make him come to her. While taking Hyo-ju home, Yi-woon asked Yi-shin to look out for and care for her a little. As Song A comforted Hyun-seung, she gave him a warm hug and had a brilliant idea. Instead of letting Manager Seo launch first, they would use their product to drive sales. This idea proved invaluable to Hyun-seung. The next day at the meeting, Hyun-seung proposed offering free trials to customers. If the product proved popular, they would generate substantial sales, simultaneously preventing Manager Seo from making any. Manager Seo, furious, turned to Yi-woon for help. Yi-woon bluntly told him that generating revenue was his own responsibility. If he wanted to keep his position, he needed to work harder. Yi-shin went back to his mother's restaurant. This time, he went inside and ate. She recognized him as the son she had abandoned years ago. Yi-shin asked if she regretted her decision. She replied that she didn't, as she didn't want to live with his abusive father. As she prepared food for other customers, he quietly left. But she ran after him, telling him to consider her dead, to live his own life and not to worry about or look for her again. Song A had to work overtime, burdened with a mountain of tasks. Team leader A asked Hyun-seung to stay and help her. But seeing Song A's signal, he understood and made an excuse about having an appointment, leaving early. Once the team leader was gone, he returned to help Song A. As they were openly affectionate, oblivious to the security camera, they turned around, startled to find the assistant manager standing there, having watched them for some time. He feigned an eye irritation and left. That evening, Yeon-seung had dinner with her husband and Han Seo. Noticing their silence, she asked how they met in college. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Her husband said Ha-yoon would be back soon and suggested they leave after dessert. It seemed he was hiding something. Hyo-ju took Yi-shin to the new house they were about to move into. He assured her that the issues with his father were resolved, but Hyo-ju felt like she was talking to a wall. He was constantly pushing her away. They had a big fight. He snapped, saying he always did what she wanted, but she was still greedy, wanting even more from him. Exhausted, Yi-shin said he wanted to end things. The next day, when Dare went to Yi-shin's office, he found a resignation letter on the desk. He called Yi-shin but got no answer, so he called Hyo-ju to ask if anything had happened between them. Hearing that Yi-shin had resigned, she realized his words the previous night were serious. Panicked, she searched everywhere for him but couldn't find him. She then ran to the company and confronted a bewildered Song-a, yelling, "Where's Yi-shin?" Convinced Song-a knew his whereabouts, Hyo-ju caused a scene, preventing Song-a from leaving until Yi-woon arrived and calmed her down. Seeing his sister confronting Song-a, Yi-woon suspected she was involved and called her. Song-a confessed that she and Yi-shin had dated. Yi-woon finally understood that they had broken up because of his sister. He asked Song-a to let him know if Yi-shin contacted her again. Following the previous night's events, a rumor spread that Song-a was a homewrecker who had interfered in Yi-shin and Hyo-ju's relationship. Hearing colleagues badmouthing Song-a, Seung became furious, telling them to go to the police if they wanted to know the truth. While getting coffee, Song-a overheard others gossiping about her. As she was about to leave, the three team leaders appeared, offering their support. All three expressed their complete trust in her. That evening, Yi-woon went to Hyo-ju's house and told her to forget about Yi-shin. "Who the hell is he that you're so hung up on him?" he asked. Hyo-ju burst into tears, saying she couldn't live without him. At the cooking class, Gu unexpectedly announced he was ending the course, surprising everyone. He also distanced himself from Han Seo, making her worry and ask if something was wrong. Gu brushed it off, saying he was just busy with the restaurant. Another prominent company was recruiting, and their representative approached Song-a with a job offer. The salary and benefits were significantly better than her current position. As Seung placed a pastry on Song-a's desk, he remembered that their colleagues were still around. However, everyone already knew about their relationship and decided to drop the pretense. That evening, during dinner, Song-a told Hyun Seung about the job offer and asked for his advice. He felt it was a good opportunity and encouraged her to take it if she thought it would benefit her career. After being reprimanded by the chairman, Jeon decided to accept Yi-shin's resignation. The assistant manager would temporarily fill the role of department head until a replacement was found. The company faced another crisis when customers returned products and demanded refunds. The returned cosmetics were Hyun Seung's first product. Customers became concerned after watching a negative review video online. The team watched the video together. It featured a woman criticizing the new product and advising viewers not to buy it. That night, Song-a and Seung rewatched the video multiple times. Song-a noticed something odd and found a clue. The next day, they met with the woman from the video. She claimed it was her first time purchasing the product, but she was carrying a VIP customer gift bag. Furthermore, a few weeks earlier, she had given the product a positive review. When faced with the possibility of legal action, the woman confessed. She wanted to leverage the company's popularity to increase her own online engagement. She then posted an apology video, admitting to lying and clearing the company's name. That day, Han Seo went to Yeon Seung's husband's pharmacy to treat her aching hand. Han Seo confessed that Yeon Seung was such a good person that he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth about their past relationship in college. Just then, Yeon Seung arrived looking for her husband. Standing outside, she overheard their conversation about their college days and their past romance. Hearing a noise outside, he anxiously ran out to find Yeon Seung standing there, stunned. She tried to mask her confusion and quickly left. Back home, she worried restlessly. When her husband returned, she pretended to be asleep to avoid talking to him. Ever since Yi-shin left, Hyo-ju had been despondent, staying in her room and refusing to eat. At the team meeting, the assistant team leader announced that they would soon have a new intern. Seung would be responsible for mentoring this intern, and he prepared meticulously. The intern, Myung-jin, arrived and would be working with them for the next month. Despite Seung's efforts to help, Myung-jin kept to himself, seemingly uninterested in interacting. Later, when the two were alone, Myung-jin revealed that he had already received an offer from another company and was only interning here to gain experience. Hyun-seung was already aware of this. Regardless, Myung-jin was his first mentee, and he was determined to do his best to guide him. He hoped that if Myung-jin ever looked back on his time at the company, he would remember his mentor fondly. Myung-jin seemed to develop a new respect for Hyun-seung. In the following days, he would approach Hyun-seung with any questions he had. Hyun-seung asked his brother Jae-seung to pick up Ha-yoon. He and Song-a then took Ha-yoon to the supermarket. The three of them enjoyed a meal cooked by Hyun-seung. Ha-yoon was very fond of his girlfriend. After dinner, and after Ha-yoon had fallen asleep, Jae-seung came to pick her up. Jae-seung was delighted to learn that Song-a was Seung's girlfriend again and expressed a desire to have a meal with her sometime. As the two were happily heading home, they saw Yi-shin up ahead. He said he needed to talk to Song-a. Seung agreed and left them alone. Yi-shin wanted to properly apologize to her. Although unsure of what the future held, he knew he had to keep living. At home, Hyun-seung paced anxiously. As soon as Song-a returned, she embraced him tightly, having missed him. When she was about to leave, Hyun-seung stopped her and asked if she could stay a little longer. They then shared a kiss. Yeon-seung waited for her husband to come home and asked him to sit down so they could talk. She questioned him about their relationship in college and asked why he hadn't maintained a proper distance from Gu-eun, knowing their history. She pointed out that he could have shared anything with her, so why hadn't he? Tears welled up in Han Seo's eyes as he asked her if he loved her. Touched by Seung's enthusiasm and dedication, Myung-jin decided to stay at the company. He still had much to learn and continued to seek guidance from Seung. Team leader Troy was entrusted by Yi-woon to take over Yi-shin's position while he went to Europe. That evening, Song-a's mother came to Seoul and looked for her at the office. However, when she called, she learned that Song-a was out and would be back late. As she was dejectedly leaving, Hyun-seung happened to exit the building and saw her. He offered to take her home. He complimented Song-a, saying she was an excellent employee at the company and often worked late. He told her mother not to be upset with her. Her mother was pleased and shared a story about how, in school, Song-a was always very stubborn. Because she disliked the top student, she studied hard and achieved the top rank just to spite them. While waiting at a traffic light, Song-a's mother's stomach rumbled. She confessed that she had been craving the hot pot she saw on TV. Hyun-seung took her to the best hot pot restaurant in town. Meanwhile, Song-a was having dinner with team leader Cho. She confided that while her current job seemed stable, she felt apprehensive about the monotony that might set in after 5 years. Team leader Cho asked if she would be interested in transferring to the European branch to learn and explore her interests. While Hyun-seung and Song-a's mother were enjoying the hot pot, she asked him if Song-a had a boyfriend at the company. The question startled him. He quickly changed the subject to distract her and avoid discussing the topic. After dinner, he safely escorted her home and coincidentally ran into Song-a. She was surprised to see them together, especially since Hyun-seung had taken her mother out for hot pot. Nothing gets past a mother's intuition. She realized that Hyun-seung was very fond of her daughter. At home, Ha-yoon sensed her mother's sadness and asked if something was wrong with her father. When Song-a delivered some documents to team leader Cho, she was given a brochure about working in the European branch and advised to consider it carefully. While grocery shopping, Yeon-seung ran into Han Seo. He waited for her, wanting to apologize, but Yeon-seung refused to listen. She walked away, telling him that if he truly wanted to make amends, he should stay away from her husband. That day, Jae-seung's older sister asked Hyun-seung to meet her. She revealed that her boyfriend was Yi-woon, Hyun-seung's boss. He was utterly surprised that his sister had such captivating charm. At that moment, Yeon-seung also arrived. They noticed she didn't look well, but she insisted she was fine. During the meal, Yi-woon inadvertently mentioned Song-a's name. Yeon-seung realized they had been keeping secrets from her. She burst into tears, lamenting that everyone always kept things from her. She left and went home, crying alone in her room. Outside, her husband overheard everything. Yi-shin finally agreed to meet with Yi-woon. Upon arrival, Yi-woon punched Yi-shin, demanding to know why he had done what he did. I always considered you a friend, Yi Woon exclaimed angrily. But Yi Shin coldly replied, I've never had any friends. His words cut Yi Woon deeply. At the hospital, Yi Woon urged Hyo-ju to forget about Yi Shin. Even if you die, he won't come, he declared. But Hyo-ju refused to give up, still insistent on seeing Yi Shin. While Seung and Song-a were organizing things in the car, he saw the brochure about the European opportunity. Song-a started to explain, but he interrupted her, saying, Let's talk after work. They didn't speak to each other for the rest of the day. At the end of the workday, disaster struck. Myung-jin had entered all the product codes incorrectly. Fixing it would take all night. Knowing he had an exam the next morning, the team told him to go home. Hyun-seung and Song-a took on the task of correcting his mistakes. Hyun-seung asked, Why didn't you tell me about this? Going to Europe is completely different from changing companies. It's 5 years. He didn't want her to go, but ultimately respected her decision. When Woo Hyun dropped Ha-yoon off at school, she said, If Dad made Mom sad, he should apologize quickly. He couldn't focus on work all day. When Yeon-seung returned home, unable to bear seeing her in such pain, he presented her with divorce papers. He offered her the pharmacy and full custody of Ha-yoon. Yeon-seung was furious. She ripped up the papers and declared, I will never sign this. Yi Woon called Yi Shin and asked him to talk to Hyo-ju one last time. At the hospital, he told her, Live your own life. Stop following me. I'm starting over with a new life. Lost in thought, Song-a was invited for tea by team leader Ju. He offered her some advice. Whether you choose to go or stay, you will regret it. But people often choose the path that leads to greater regret. Finally, she made her decision. When she saw Hyun-seung again, he asked, Have you decided? Song-a nodded. I cherish the time I've spent with you. But if I miss this opportunity, I'll regret it forever. Although heartbroken, Hyun-seung agreed to let her go. He knew a long-distance relationship would be difficult, but if their love was strong enough, 5 years would pass quickly. The assistant team leader assigned Hyun-seung to Song-a's projects. He was pleased, as it was his area of expertise. During lunch with her mother, Song-a announced her plans to go to Europe for 5 years. Her mother was taken aback, but instead of objecting, she praised her daughter's abilities and gave her blessing. She was proud of Song-a's hard work and the opportunity it had earned her. She was also reflecting on her own behavior, resolving not to stand in her daughter's way again. When Hyun-seung arrived at work, he saw Jae-seung's sister, Deom, there. She was waiting for Yi Woon. When Yi Woon arrived and saw them together, he was confused. After some explanation, he learned they were siblings. He was surprised, having worked together for so long without knowing. Hyun-seung wanted to spend the evening with Song-a, but she was busy with her handover tasks. She promised to go out with him on the weekend. When Woo Hyun went to his parents' house and told them about the divorce, his father immediately slapped him. He yelled, No divorce. His mother called Yeon-seung to ask what was going on. She calmly replied, I won't get divorced. On Sunday, just as Song-a was about to go out, her mother realized she was going on a date with Hyun-seung. Since none of her co-workers cared about their senior colleague's mother's opinions, she didn't forbid it, simply telling Song-a to come home later. The two went to a DIY ring-making workshop and had a wonderful time. While they were engraving their names on the rings, Song-a received a call. Her team leader told her to come back to the office because there was some work that needed to be handled. Hyun-seung waited outside for her, thinking it would be quick, but the work turned out to be more than expected. She called and told him to go home first. When Yeon-seung arrived home, he found Thyon's face terribly swollen. She applied medicine to his face and asked, Do you really want to divorce me? If that's what you truly want, please be honest with me. He insisted that he wasn't gay. In college, he and Gulon had been close friends, which sparked his curiosity about different sexual orientations. When Song-a finished work and came outside, she saw Hyun-seung's car still parked there. She went to check and found him asleep, having waited for her, which touched her deeply. At dinner, he ate a lot, having been very hungry from waiting. Currently, Hyun-seung wanted to cherish every moment he had with Song-a. The next day at work, Hyun-seung received bad news. There was a defect in the giveaway product, meaning it couldn't pass inspection and be released to the market. Even if they fixed it, there wouldn't be enough time, as there were 100,000 units. Hyun Seung ran around asking if any other companies could take on the production, but everyone was fully booked. Although it was a serious matter, there seemed to be no solution. Yi Shin was trying to restart his business, but no investors were willing to fund him. This was because Reru had used his connections to get investors to reject Yi Shin. Now, Yi Shin had regained his spirit and was determined to move forward. While Hyun Seung was worrying about the product, a company agreed to help with the production. Yeon Seung asked Hyun to meet, then presented her with signed divorce papers. She had already signed them. That evening, Se-ul and Song-a went out for dinner. She felt guilty because she had always received so much from him, while she only accepted and never helped him in return. On a holiday, Hyun Seung and Song-a stayed home and watched a horror movie. Since he was afraid of ghosts, during a climactic scene, Song-a startled him, making him jump. As they were playing a game and chasing each other around, they both suddenly stopped, looking into each other's eyes. Hyun Seung leaned in and kissed her. Before Song-a left, her mother hugged her and told her to keep moving forward, as she always had a place to return to. Almost 3 years passed. The current assistant manager had become the team leader, and Hyun Seung had become the group leader. Si-rim also joined his team. Hyo-ju went on blind dates, but none of them worked out. As she was about to leave, she ran into Yi Shin, who was on his way to meet an investor. Before leaving, she said, "I'm doing well even without you now." He was glad to see her healthy. That night, while waiting at a red light, Hyun Seung saw Song-a across the street. As she was about to approach him, he turned and walked away. 3 years of working in Europe had stabilized Song-a's career. She had experienced everything she wanted to explore and wanted to return to the headquarters branch. Back home, she found everything unchanged. Looking at a photo taken with Hyun Seung reminded her of the winter 2 years prior. When her vacation was approaching, she had a sudden business trip and called Hyun Seung to inform him. He had been happily packing, but was a little disappointed upon hearing the news, yet still comforted her and said they could do it next time. The summer of the previous year, she was about to visit Korea when she received news about the product issue, so she had to postpone her trip until winter. A year ago, on a holiday, Hyun Seung went to Paris to visit her. While he was waiting for her at a cafe, she called and said she was a little busy and would be late. He didn't blame her and waited until late at night. When the cafe closed, he considered calling Song-a but didn't want to interrupt her work, so he refrained. When she returned home, she found him asleep on the sofa, waiting for her. Song-a burst into tears and asked, "Why do you always stand me up, yet never complain and keep it all inside?" So, Song-a said, "Let's stop here." When she arrived at the office, Hyun Seung acted very distant and treated her like any other colleague. The team leader wondered if it would be okay for them to work together. Song assured him it was fine, as they had ended things. While Jae Seung was designing a wedding dress, Yi Woon came to discuss furnishings for their new bedroom. But she was so focused on her work that she ignored him, causing him to sulk and leave. After team leader Ju finished studying with the two of them and left, team leader Kang and team leader pulled him aside to ask about the situation. When they learned about the breakup, they were very worried. In the elevator, Si-rim told Song-a that Hyun Seung had been heartbroken after their breakup. Yi Shin was now the director of a small company. After receiving a large investment, the whole team was overjoyed. The day of the product photoshoot arrived, but there was a problem at the original studio. He told his assistant to urgently find another location. The assistant took him to a well-known studio. Upon arriving, Yi Shin recognized the familiar place as Hyo-ju's. As they were about to enter, they ran into Hyo-ju. After a brief exchange of greetings, she wished him luck and left. Hyun Seung and Song-a went together to conduct market research and review customer feedback on the new product. In the evening, she asked him if he wanted to have dinner together, but Hyun Seung declined, saying he had something to do. At that moment, Song-a received a call from a friend inviting her to a bar. Everyone there offered her a drink, so she ended up drinking quite a lot. As Hyun Seung was driving home, he saw Song-a, drunk, sitting at the bus stop, so he went over and called her name. Song-a slurred that she missed him, leaned against him, and confessed that she still liked him. The next day, Song-a woke up feeling exhausted. She didn't understand how she got home the previous night. After asking her close friend, she learned that Hyun-seung had brought her back. Now remembering what she had said last night, she was incredibly embarrassed. At work, she awkwardly avoided Hyun-seung. After reviewing the product photos from the previous day, Yi Shin found them much improved. He immediately called to thank her and invited her to dinner. Hyo-ju was also happy and agreed. The two were able to sit and chat comfortably with each other. While Hyun-seung was working late, Yi-woon came by and asked who was making his sister-in-law work so much. He invited Hyun-seung to dinner, but Hyun-seung suggested they have a drink instead. Yi-woon realized that Hyun-seung had something on his mind. He had thought that their breakup had been resolved amicably, but perhaps Hyun-seung hadn't forgotten her. While the team was eating in the cafeteria, an announcement informed them of a fire drill at 8 o'clock. That evening, as Hyun-seung was about to take the elevator, he ran into Song-a. Suddenly, the fire alarm went off. Worried, Song-a grabbed his hand and they ran out together. Hyun-seung tried to explain that it was only a drill, but didn't get the chance. After realizing it was a false alarm, Song-a blushed and ran off, even accidentally dropping her shoe. That night, Hyun-seung recalled the incident and chuckled to himself. In the following days, they frequently worked together. When she saw him with a stomachache, Song-a went to the pharmacy to buy him medicine. When she drove Hyun-seung home, she found him asleep. She couldn't resist stroking his hair. Hyun-seung, who had been pretending to sleep, said, "You can't hide your feelings like this." Then he said, "Why don't you try seducing me?" His words kept Song-a awake all night. She ended up running to Yi-woon's room, where he was filming a YouTube video answering questions from viewers. The next day at work, as soon as she saw Hyun-seung, she reapplied her makeup and approached him. When they were alone in the elevator, Song-a confessed her feelings, surprising Hyun-seung. After that, whenever she saw him struggling with a heavy task alone, she would step in to help. She secretly bought him snacks, telling him they were just for him. Even when her friend asked about the snack, she insisted it was for Hyun-seung and left. When everyone had left work and only C-Rim was working late, Song-a ordered fried chicken and ate with him. She confessed that this was her first time pursuing someone, so she didn't know if she was doing it right. Jeon and Jae-seung were trying on wedding clothes. He was still bothered by her ignoring him. Deom asked why he hadn't proposed yet. He suddenly remembered, having been so busy lately that it completely slipped his mind. Yi-woon apologized, realizing his mistake. She asked him to close his eyes, then pulled a ring from her pocket and put it on his finger. She said that even though she wasn't good at expressing her feelings and had made him sad, she would always be by his side. Hearing these words, Yi-woon was moved to tears. While Dehung was teasing them, he hugged her tightly. Later, while Seung and Jae-seung were having dinner, she asked if Song-a had returned to the country. Seung confided that although he still loved Song-a very much, he was a coward. Even if Song-a wanted to get back together, he was hesitant. At home, Hyo-ju was holding an umbrella, remembering the time she and Yi Shin were walking home from dinner when it suddenly started pouring. Seeing that she didn't have an umbrella, he gave her his and ran home in the rain. That day, Jae-seung's wedding dress shop was signing a contract with Hyun-seung's company, and Song-a was the representative. Song-a was very nervous because they had broken up, fearing Young would resent her. As soon as Hyun-seung stepped out to take a phone call, Young asked to speak with her privately. She said that people who aren't afraid always rush forward, but after being hurt, they become timid, alluding to Hyun-seung. That evening, the group was celebrating when Myung-jin's Jr. expressed interest in going to Europe for a new experience. Song-a mentioned they were short-staffed, but Bae-song said he couldn't go yet because his girlfriend wouldn't agree. If he went to Europe now, the chances of them breaking up were high, so he'd wait until after they were married. Everyone fell silent, looking at him because his situation was very similar to Hyun-seung and Song-a's. When Seung took Song-a home, she said that if he could accept her again, she promised she would never upset him. Hearing this, he asked, "Can I kiss you?" They then spent a cozy night together. The next morning, they happily cooked breakfast together and went to work. At the company, whenever there was a problem, Hyun-seung helped her. their workplace romance was back on track. Yeon Seung and Woo Hyun were traveling together. He thanked her for always protecting him. But now, he would try to overcome that protective barrier. Although she knew Ha-yoon would be very sad after the divorce, the little girl had to learn to accept the truth. When they got home, Ha-yoon, knowing her parents were about to divorce, locked herself in her room and cried. Hyun Seung, now in love, was energetic again. Even while having coffee with his friends, he abandoned them for his love when he saw Song-ae. Suddenly, he received a call from Ha-yoon. Hyun Seung took Ha-yoon out, while Young took on the task of comforting Yeon Seung. She said that if Yeon Seung ever needed to talk, they would always listen. This brought Yeon Seung to tears. After that comforting day, Yeon Seung hugged Ha-yoon and said that if she wanted, she could still see her father regularly. Hyo-ju used the excuse of returning the umbrella to see Yi-shin again. She suggested they forget the past and become friends. Yi-shin happily agreed. That day, Seung ran into Song-ae's mother and gave her a ride home. She asked if he had a girlfriend yet and scolded her daughter for letting happiness slip away. When she learned he had a girlfriend, she felt a little regretful. When they arrived home, she asked them to sit in front of her, putting on a serious face. It turned out she knew they were back together but didn't approve. She didn't want to give a good man like Hyun Seung to Song-ae. There were so many good girls in the world, and he chose this one. All their worries suddenly vanished when they both said, "We can't live without each other." Finally, she accepted. That night, Yi-shin invited Yi-woon for drinks. They reminisced about their school days. He thanked Jeon because it was thanks to Yi-woon holding his hand back then that he was where he was today. One afternoon after work, on their way home, Song-a said that every year they would travel together, hinting at growing old together. Hyun Seung embraced her amidst the bustling traffic. Not long after, they both donned their wedding attire, preparing for their big day.